See, I told you Tony Stark was going to win this fight, and he already has. The feels. Who didn't feel just horrible for Tony Stark? First, when he says that line about, so was I, in response to Cap's like, Bucky's my friend. And then also to see him being beaten by both Bucky and Cap working together to take him down was just devastating. I've seen a number of you say, Cap kind of comes off as a jerk. That seems kind of mean. And I think that it's really brilliant. And I wonder if Chris Evans knows what's happening here and how Robert Downey Jr. has so brilliantly undercut him in his own movie. Although, that's something else that I want to point out. BTT viewer, a fellow Grace, said that one of the interesting things about Captain America Civil War is that it very much seems still like a Captain America movie. Whereas, of course, Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice seems very much like a Batman movie to some degree. So it's nice that Cap is basically still getting his movie. I also got a lot of people asking me, which trailer do you like better, Grace? Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice from, they released it from Comic-Con, or this Captain America Civil War trailer. And I have to say, I think they're tied. And I think what's really interesting is that the heart of both movies are really interesting, almost philosophical, or I guess you could say political questions that are like legitimately debatable. With Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice, it's should Superman be allowed to be unchecked? Is he just too powerful? And then you have a similar argument actually almost over here in Civil War. So I guess you're going to see DC and Marvel have the same argument. We'll see which one does a better job shaping the debate. But after I saw this trailer, I was like, Team Tony all the way. But then this morning I was talking to a friend of mine, and she was actually like, no. And she's a big Tony Stark fan, by the way, and I thought for sure she'd be Team Tony, and so did she. But when I explained the trailer to her, she's not a big comic book fan, so she hadn't watched it yet. But she was like, I kind of side with Cap. I don't think that superheroes should have to answer to the government. And I was like, what? So there's like an actual debate brewing here, which I think is pretty awesome. All right, and so is this trailer. This trailer is amazing. So let's break it down. So you're watching my shot-by-shot review, and let's get started. Okay, so we start out. Also, by the way, kudos to Marvel for actually making this a big deal, even though it leaked months ago. Now this, by the way, speaking of things we've already seen, this opening, little back and forth is from the end of Ant-Man, right? And we saw a little bit more of this where they're like, how do we get him out of this trap? And they're like, and Falcon's like, I know a guy. And of course, enter Ant-Man. And there are a lot of people who don't show up in this trailer. But I think that, Marvel, when they announced the production of Doctor Strange being officially begun yesterday, actually, they had a press release come out, and they're like, Phase 3 is all about introducing new characters. But this trailer isn't. This trailer is about Avenger versus Avenger. And the only person they really spotlight is Black Panther and a little bit of Scarlet Witch. And of course, everyone's like, where's Ant-Man? Where's Spider-Man? Oh, we have General Ross back for fun. But I think this is trying to, again, present the argument and make it seem like it's a realistic argument to have. And I think it succeeds there incredibly well. So, Cap just can't say no to Bucky. He's his weakness. So he's like, do you remember me? And Bucky, I have to say, I think a yes would have sufficed, but instead Bucky decides to go for the heart. He's like, I know your mom's name. I know you used to be like really short and have to put newspaper lifts in your shoes. And Cap's like, just give me a minute. Oh my God, Bucky, I'll help you. And it's like, I hope you're not being played, Cap. So yeah, there's the feels. Now this is interesting. This is unfortunately very timely with this explosion. We don't know if this is, is it because it's Marvel? Do we assume every building is a S.H.I.E.L.D. building? We don't know. But some office building here is getting blown up. And unfortunately, we have a very bad situation right now with terrorism in the world. So, some people feel that hurt Mockingjays box office. I don't think that's true, actually. And I think that, I think it's good. I don't want to always see, like, the Nazi, metaphor, because that's from a long time ago. And that's not what we are dealing with today in the world. I very much feel that entertainment should reflect what's going on right now, especially when you have serious arguments like this. So I like presenting it in this manner. Now, there are spoilers about what's actually going on here. I'm not going to give them away here, but I'll put a link at the end of this video and in the video description for my spoiler discussion about some of the rumors. And I think if you look at this trailer with those rumors in mind, those rumors seem totally true. So there's Falcon. He's on the scene. So that's what makes me feel like maybe it's a S.H.I.E.L.D. building. Although S.H.I.E.L.D.'s been, well, whatever S.H.I.E.L.D. is, or whatever the government facility. So anyway, I thought it was interesting that they say here, you can see these soldiers, just regular old, what does that say? Police or... What's on their vests? Is that English? I don't know. It's far away. But anyway, I'm surprised that they said, oh, and they're not going to take you alive, Bucky. And that's a really intense debate right now about, I'd be like, I don't know. That's like a real world debate as to whether or not combatants, suspected combatants should be taken alive. And I think it's like, well, does the combatant resist? And it's like, Bucky, if you surrender, I think maybe you would be taken alive. Or maybe you wouldn't. I don't know. Again, very real world. And I love what the Russo brothers are doing here. The realistic, there we are. There's a better shot of their vests. Oh, it says Police. So, interestingly, Baron Zemo, Daniel Bruhl's character, is a big villain here, so it seems like we're somewhere in his neighborhood. The Russo brothers, such a fantastic job here. So Winter Soldiery. Now that right there. This was one of my favorite shots of the trailer, from the beginning, because it was just so Captain America Winter Soldier. And I'm so impressed with the Russo brothers' ability, considering where they came from as directors. I mean, they have just taken to action, political action films like fish to water. And I'm really curious to see how Sebastian Stan does here. I've never been a Sebastian Stan fan. I know that he has his fans. I'm always like, why did you cast him as Bucky? You knew that was going to be a big role. But I loved him when he was in his Winter Soldier guise, and when his face was covered in Captain America Winter Soldier. But I thought that the character was very well realized there as like this unstoppable force. So I'm curious to see how they transition him with all those skills that he still has, but now as a good guy. And I'm curious to see if he'll be as cool, because he was mighty cool as a villain. But this shot is very, very nice. So he's escaping. I think at the beginning of the trailer here, Cap's tracking him. I think that is like, I think if you're going to try and decide the order of what's happening, I think like Cap's trying to find him, because, you'll see in a moment, he's like, oh, is that you, Bucky? Oh, you've disappeared into the wind. So Cap's trying to find him. Maybe there's like a chase sequence. We see some elements of that. And then like they meet up, because he's like, and Bucky's like, I didn't do it. And he's like, I believe you, Bucky. I'm going to help you. So I think that's kind of like you're seeing things a little out of order. But that means action sequences throughout, which is very important. I think that William Hurt looks great here. He's talking about this hero versus vigilante. Oh, new Avengers. The Avengers headquarters now are like a complex. I like this. I like Avengers Tower, but it makes sense for them to be separate, because it's the old, why would you put a superhero center that's often going to be attacked in the middle of a populated area? Why not upstate New York? As I like to say, or hope, down the lane from, the Xavier Institute. That would be fantastic. They can have football games versus each other. So that's great. I mean, he looks pretty awesome, right? I mean, he's rocking a nice look, William Hurt. I think the stylization on him is very good. And come on, this obviously is the, Robert Redford Winter Soldier was really a good fit. And so clearly now William Hurt's fitting that role here. And I think that a lot of what William Hurt says makes sense. So totally understand that. They're having a really difficult conference meeting. There's the whole, where's Bucky go? Now, this is very interesting. Obviously, they're handing this to Wanda. She had very distinctive hands. But they say the Slovakia Accords. That's obviously the country that Ultron devastated and took out of the earth to make into a meteor. And there were some deaths, we're assuming. They didn't really show any on camera because it's a Marvel movie. And I wonder if they're going to address it to the degree that Batman v Superman seems to be addressing all the deaths in Man of Steel. So you do have a similar situation, right? It's like you devastated, in Man of Steel it was Metropolis, and here it was the unknown. They're both unknown. They're both fictional places, but Slovakia. So this is also something that has been guessed. And this is the inciting incident, as some people surmised. It's not the explosion at the school. I think that I would have liked the explosion at the school. I think you just have to drop the comic book story, because I think this does play in line with what's happened in the Marvel Cinematic Universe so far. But it's, this is definitely a growing pain that the Marvel Cinematic Universe is now, I think, officially splitting from the comics in terms of canon. And that's been a big, secret weapon or a secret ingredient or special ingredient, because it hasn't been a secret. But a big part of Marvel's success in the movie division has been their faithfulness to the source material, and that's coming to an end. So it'll be interesting interesting to see how fans react. If you put action sequences, are like a spoonful of sugar that help the medicine go down. So hopefully that'll I think they know that, and that's why this seems chock full of action. Now that's a great shot. I think that this is one of the things that you're like, it's a Cap movie. And I think that's fantastic. Because, we said Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice seems very much like a Batman movie to some degree. Because Ben Affleck gets all the awesome shots. Although maybe I just feel Henry Cavill doesn't bring a lot of weight and charisma to the Superman role. So even though he has his own shots, they don't quite resonate. But I think that Chris Evans is spectacularly successful as Captain America. It's like the role he was born to play. It's fantastic. And here he looks super cool. And that's one of the things I like about how the Russo brothers depict the character. He is the Boy Scout, but he's also, the cool guy. He's the guy who's the hero. They've managed to make to defeat the Boy Scout problem that plagues so many characters, from Superman to Storm, who's like a Girl Scout. It's problematic, and they fixed it, so it gives hope to those other characters. All right, so moving. Oh, another motorcycle. I love Bucky on the motorcycle because I immediately thought of Black Widow. And it's like, they're going to be a great couple. You like to ride motorcycles. He likes to ride motorcycles. You guys should totally get together. Take a road trip date. So I like that. Everyone appreciates a good motorcycle action sequence. And I think Marvel has particularly good ones because they have such cool characters on the motorcycles. Now, actually, let's go back for a second. I think he's wearing the outfit that he wears earlier when he's like, this is part of the chase, I believe. We're going to cut to this and later, actually, in the very same trailer with some Black Pantheriness. Now, this is a nice exchange. We're going to pause on Black Widow, but you just saw Captain America in the stairwell. I like that they put Captain America in these, like, office-y settings, and they give, like, a superhero twist to it. Like, I loved his elevator fight sequence in Winter Soldier, and here he's, like, taking a moment in the stairwell, like so many people do at offices, right? They're like, oh, I can't deal with this in front of everyone. I'm going to retreat to the stairwell. So it's funny that superheroes have to do the same thing. Now, I'm very curious to see how Black Widow comes across here. Is she a double agent? Maybe she legitimately agrees that they need to be supervised. I mean, she knows better than anyone that people, certain organizations shouldn't have oversight because of the Black Widow program, right? Or will she fear that this will become the Black Widow program? That's very interesting on its own. But I think I love Scarlett Johansson. I think she's great. I think she looks a little bit more mature here in this picture, which is interesting. And you always have to watch your styling and how your hair is done and how you're lit in your makeup, because you don't want to have words like mature used to describe you. But I love Black Widow, and she's been talking again about having a solo movie, so we'll see. All right, so she's obviously a very big part of Cap movies. They're pals. And not romantically involved, which is really nice. It's just they're actually just good friends, which I think is a really nice development for movies. All right, now here Cap's like, well, whatever. Now this is great. They called in the big gun, the living gun, Tony Stark, and I love how he comes in here. And I like the exchange. He's like, "You seem a little defensive, Captain," and he's like, "I've had a long day, Tony," and I think that's great. I think that's really good. It's like your typical standoff between two heroes. They both have to do what they have to do. I'm very curious to see how, we've never seen Iron Man handled by the Russo brothers before, and I'm very curious to see how they take care of the character. So far, it looks like they're doing a fantastic job, but it's great to see him get involved in this. I wonder why he has a black eye if he's just entered the fight. Maybe they've had a couple of exchanges already, and now he's going to try and talk him down. But that looked like a reveal to me, though. When he came through the doors, that looked like a big reveal, like, Iron Man's here to talk to you. And you're like, and Captain America's like, what are you doing in my movie? He's like, I hear this is where all the action and box office is. Although Iron Man movies still perform, or have performed, very well. All right, here's like another S.H.I.E.L.D. office-y standoff. Bucky and Cap. Best friends till the end, man. There's the punch you in your perfect teeth line. As I said when I heard this from the D23 showing of this trailer, I feel like Robert Downey Jr. maybe means a little bit of that himself towards Chris Evans. And if I were Chris Evans, again, I'd be like a little bit wary. I'd be like, I'm going to have my lunch over here because I don't think you actually like me, Robert Downey Jr. But that's right. I'm actually becoming as popular as you in the MCU. So yeah, even the character didn't take kindly to that. You know who else is very cool in this trailer? Falcon. I think he looks really great. And I got the chance to interview Anthony. We're going to pause right there. To interview Anthony Mackie recently. I'll put a link to that. He was like such a great interview, such a nice guy. He really loves, playing Falcon. But I talked to him about taking over the mantle of Captain America because Sam Wilson is Captain America right now in the comics. And he said there's been no discussion of that. But of course, he's very proud to play Sam Wilson. But I think that they're clearly trying to build up the Bucky relationship, and I feel that Bucky probably will become Captain America, but I think that's silly. I mean, in the comics, it's Sam Wilson right now, and I think that would be a great idea, and seeing him pull off action moves like this, let's watch it in slow motion, so amazing. I just think it would be great. I think that he's getting ready. I think it looks like he's ready to be Captain America with the wings. We don't see any Red Wing here. I wonder if Red Wing will show up. He is in the concept art. Now, this is some kind of fight. I think this is the building where Black Panther shows up. We saw them fighting. Oh, that's Crossbones just there for... I think that's Crossbones there just for a second. Or someone who's looks like Crossbones. All right, so there's War Machine and Iron Man, still with that black eye. I have to say, even like Robert Downey Jr. looks like slicker and more angular, like in this movie, right? Like everyone's just cooler because the Russo brothers like, let's put the cool filter on the camera. Okay, look how great everybody looks. The War Machine reactor is looking pretty interesting. That looks a lot different. All right, then they're having this big chase at the airport. Okay, there's Black Panther. I'm getting a lot of people saying that he looks like the Black Power Ranger. I'm divided on the outfit. If you actually look at that picture that they released a while ago, from the announcement that Chadwick Boseman was going to be Black Panther and he was going to be in Civil War, they actually had all this like silver detailing on it, but it was hard to see because of the shadows in the picture. And maybe Black Panther is a character for the shadows. I mean, oftentimes like Batman, people are like, yeah, Batman doesn't work during the day. There's a reason he works at night. And I think that there might be something to be said about that with Black Panther. But I want to see the character more in action. I'm very curious, and there's a cooler shot of him coming up. So I think it's not good that some people look at him and say Power Ranger, because look what happened to poor Apocalypse when people said Ivan Ooze. All right, so moving on. He says, we fight. Now that's great. All right, we have two very cool shots here, quick in a row. There goes Wanda up in the air. That's so amazing. I'm so excited to see someone flying. I loved Scarlet Witch so much in Avengers Age of Ultron. Such a fantastic character. I'm really glad to see her used so much here. And it looks like Cap has a new gal pal. And Black Widow's like, how easily you replace me. But I'm very excited to see her power set. She's has a great visual power. And we really don't have anybody who has a great visual power in the MCU quite yet. I think a lot of these new characters like Doctor Strange might add to that, but it's a very X-Men-y, and I'm a big X-Men fan, and of course she is originally supposed to be a mutant, but not anymore, but I just love the red power, and I love the idea of how she, is able to fly. I don't know how she stays up there. It's kind of like Iron Man with mystical jets, maybe. I don't know. We'll see how it works, but it's very cool. Now that was crazy. If you look at this kick from Black Panther, I've never seen a double-legged kick before. Like, that was crazy. I guess if, it has more, it's two legs. Two legs are better than one, but it doesn't look particularly cool. I don't know. They use a lot of different styles of fighting that they always work in here, and I guess they have to find new ways to have fights, because as you're going to see in a moment, sometimes it can get a little tiresome to see the exact same move again and again and again. All right, so there we go. Taking out Winter Soldier right there. There he is. See? When Black Widow takes down this person, I've seen so many people use this fight move. I've seen it in so many trailers. It was in Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, they used the same move. I think it was in the recent, it was just like a recent trailer. Oh yes, in The Huntsman, Jessica Chastain used the same move. When they like do this thing where they like wrap their legs all around you, like women typically use it, and then they like use it like a boa constrictor and take you down like by basically being a human hula hoop. And like the first couple of times it was like, oh, that's awesome, that's very clever. I think Black Widow was actually the first person to use the move in Iron Man 2, but everyone's using it now, and I'm getting kind of I'm like, hasn't anyone figured out a defense against that by now? Because we know that everyone uses it, especially if you're fighting a woman. All right, now that's great. There's Cap. I don't know if he's chasing Black Panther or if he and Black Panther are chasing Bucky, but that's fantastic. And they're both the same speed. So that's great. So you can see that Black Panther is enhanced. Now, he's supposed to be enhanced by the power of the Panther in Wakanda. It's like some Panther spirit thing. And so he doesn't have a super soldier serum. Or maybe that's, they're very, it's weird. They're scientifically, and, they're very scientifically advanced in Wakanda, but also very religious. So it's an interesting double-edged sword there, I guess we'll say. But that's a very cool scene. And I think Black Panther looks great there, but you'll note he's in the shadow. So clearly the shadow works. And there's Bucky also apparently able to look at all these superpowered people running in with running cars, moving cars. I think that's very cool. And there's Bucky in that same outfit running over cars, like the ultimate, like just go around it, Bucky. But, that wouldn't be cool. Now there's Cap being like, ooh, feel the burn. That's fantastic. That he can hold a helicopter from taking off. I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger is probably so jealous, right? I mean, we've seen so many get on the helicopter things in action movies, like even Spy had one, but we've never seen anyone actually be able to hold the helicopter. And also, in a strenuous way. I mean, that looks great. And, Chris Hemsworth, not Chris Hemsworth, so many Chris's. Chris Evans, the workouts seem to have quite paid off. There'll be a lot of people searching Chris Evans Civil War workout, I'm sure. Whenever I'm doing searches on the internet, it's really funny to always see how workout, is one of the top. It's always funny. There are two things, like people always check for workout and like girlfriend or wife. So it's like I always feel like guys are like how to look like, it's the old saying, men will want to be him, women will want to be with him. And you can see that in the Google search traffic. So that's hilarious. All right, now there's Black Widow watching some more explosions. She famously did that in the first Avengers movie. And that's at the airport again. Now here they're starting to show this fight with Bucky and Cap versus Iron Man. But here you just see Bucky taking on Iron Man. You haven't seen yet that Captain America is part of this too. Now I don't know why he's going for the reactor. They changed it in Iron Man 3 that I guess just to depower the suit because Tony doesn't need it to survive, but it would depower him and the suit would become worthless. Although I would think Tony Stark would have like a backup plan if the reactor, he has like suits hovering around him in space. I believe Veronica, right, from Avengers Age of Ultron, he should be like, come over here. He should have backup power at least after this fight. But I have to say, Sebastian Stan, not sympathetic. I would be surprised if anyone was rooting for him. Here's another great shot where you're like, of course Tony's upset with you. Look what you did to his buddy Rhodey. I don't think Rhodey's dead. Some people are like, is Rhodey dead? This is a Marvel movie. Let's not forget that. I think he's had his reactor ripped out, as you can see. I wonder if they're going to hold on to that and do something with it. Some people are guessing they need power for something. But I think that he's just knocked out. But it still hurts Tony's feelings, as you can see. And there's the airport in the distance, so I guess they won that fight. And here's that exchange of like, oh, that's just so great. It's so heartbreaking. It's like, we forget, I think, sometimes that Robert Downey Jr. is, of course, an Oscar-nominated actor for Chaplin and everything. Such an incredibly successful actor, came from that really, like, artistic background. It's a little bit like Johnny Depp, too. These guys have gone very commercial later in life and later in their careers, and their careers are the best they've ever been, but they have that really great dramatic, foundation. And Chris Evans, he does not. So if he's going to have an emote-off with Robert Downey Jr., he's going to lose. And he's already lost, I think, to some degree. Now, this is so sad. It's gorgeous, and it's amazing, and it's super cool. I love this fight. It's in some kind of snowy area, so I wonder where this is. You would think like a snowy fortress like this would maybe be where like Zemo is holed up. So at this late in the movie, are they really having this fight still? Is things not resolved? I guess so. I wonder also, this is a great fight to include in the trailer. Like, it really makes you so excited. It was what won me over and just blew me away. But does this mean they actually have better stuff for the movie, or did they give it away to sell the movie? I think, knowing the Russo brothers, they have even cooler stuff in store. So imagine how cool it's going to get. But this is a beautifully realized scene because you have Tony Stark here, and because you have the visuals are so well used. You have the shield bouncing back and forth between the two of them. That's very cool. But then also Tony Stark has his glowing lights. So you have him glowing, being shut down, a little Ultron-y, right? Maybe that's why it's so easy to fight him now. People are like, just think Ultron. But also when he does a blast, he lights things up. And that's just also a really great visual to have beams of light. You know, the old Spielberg filmmaking 101 there, beams of light cutting through your scene. So you're going to see he's going to light up Cap. Oh, he already did actually. Sorry. There you go. Yeah, there it is. That's just great. And the taking him down, and the fact that they actually kind of are taking, you know, maybe Iron Man just doesn't want to fight them because Iron Man's incredibly powerful. He took on the Hulk, so there must be some kind of choice that he's making not to do it. But look at that final shot. Captain America is not pulling any punches, and I think that's what makes him so unsympathetic, and Bucky so unsympathetic. Now, I think some will argue they can't afford to pull punches because Iron Man's more powerful than they are. But the person in there is like their co-worker at the very least. You know, he thought he was his friend. So to have someone beat down on you like this, it's devastating. It's hard to watch, and I think that's great because that's what you want in a movie called Civil War. So I think it's fascinating, fantastic trailer. I'm still totally Team Stark, but I'm wondering how many of you changed allegiances once you saw this trailer and you saw what Bucky and Cap were doing to Iron Man? Or are you still on Team Cap? And where do you just stand on the idea of superhero registration in general? Have you had any actual debates with people about this yourself? Or are you still just talking about how awesome the trailer is? We'll talk about the arguments in the trailer shortly. All right, so thank you so much for tuning into my shot-by-shot analysis. Loved it, and I think it's interesting they dropped this for Thanksgiving. I questioned dropping it, you know, the day before everyone travels, but you might recall that the Star Wars trailer was also dropped. The very first one was dropped during Thanksgiving last year, and that seemed to work pretty well for Disney, so it looks like they own Thanksgiving when it comes to trailer releases. All right, thanks so much, and you can check out some other videos and those ones that I mentioned right now.